Where do you find God? Almost sounds like a loaded question, doesn't it? I mean, if God was someone you could find, wouldn't everyone be out searching? Well, rather than looking for something elusive, like a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, I reckon it's more about learning to recognise the way God is already present to us in our everyday lives. I'm Lizzie Oakes, and this is Where Do You Find God? My guest today is Tanya Unkovich. Now, Tanya is a daughter of Croatian descent, having been born in Dargaville. She's had a diverse work career, including working as an auditor, an accountant, a life and business coach, a public speaker, author. And since October 2023, she has been a member of the New Zealand Parliament with New Zealand First. Welcome to Where Do You Find God, Tanya?
Hello again. It's always good to be back in the studio with you, Lizzie.
Yeah, I knew you before you were an MP.
I'm still the same, right?
You are still the same, and I love that about you. Being on the show with us, you used to write and voice those God spots. In fact, out of all the God spots that have ever been voiced and written, yours were the most that people came back to me and they were like, who's that person? You know, people wanted to hear your voice, and now they're hearing your voice in another way. And I know probably the last time I saw you actually last year, and you come in for an interview. I think we're talking about your book, From Grief to Greatness, and we had a cup of tea, and you said to me, I'm considering going into politics, and as people do. And then before I knew it, and before probably you knew it, you're now an MP. I can imagine that's been quite a journey.
Doesn't God work in mysterious ways? I know that's a cliche, right? But it really was one of those situations where I completely surrendered and said, if this is your will, then it will happen. And I let go of the reins. And there I am. There I was, and now I'm here. And I just continue to say, you keep showing me why and keep showing me how.
It's amazing. So, Tanya, in Acts chapter 17, verse 27, it says, God intended that they would seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him, though he is not far from each one of us. So, Tanya, where do you find God?
Every single day I find, well, put it this way, the word find, where do I find God? It's surrender again. Every day I surrender, and that opens the space for God to enter. And I find that when I completely surrender and I let go and I accept whatever my day brings, then I know that God is with me. I know that God is with me when I accept some of the difficult things that happen in my day. And I know that God is with me when something happens and I can find that bit of impatience or intolerance brewing. I know God is there because there is a lesson for me. Stop, Tanya, breathe, be patient. What is your lesson here? So do I search for God? I kind of have a feeling, you're here. That's what happens.
An awareness.
Yeah.
And is that when you kind of stop and tune in kind of thing?
I have this overwhelming sense of gratitude and emotion knowing he's there. That's what happens for me, and I go, oh my goodness, I feel your presence. And then I just get on with my day, but it's just a moment of knowing, and emotion comes up for me.
Yeah. Have you felt that being in Parliament?
Oh yes, I do. Truthfully, I do. And especially when I feel a surge of strength come from within. And then I go, yes, that's right. You're with me. You're with me on this journey. And then I just feel calm.
Yeah. So just thinking about what you said earlier, that, you felt God was nudging you in this direction. He opened the doors. You've stepped through. But it sounds to me that you don't want to do it unless he's with you.
Yeah. Do I not want to do it? I don't know if those are the words, but I just know that when I surrender and take one step forward at a time, then the then life presents itself, you know, and I know that it's meant to be, so I know He's walking beside me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think it makes sense in the sense that, you know, each person who stands behind this microphone and I ask the question has a different answer because we're all individuals and we all have a personal relationship with Jesus. So even some of the words I say, you may not particularly identify with, but that's why it's your story and not mine. Yeah, for sure. And, you know, I had to go into my head to think about that, so it didn't come as easily. Do you know what I mean? So anyway. Yeah. So this God that's with you, and you said you feel quite emotive, you feel quite emotional when you're aware of this God. What is this God like for you? When I feel that, I feel an incredible strength and I feel unstoppable. Wow. And I go, that's right, you've put me on this journey and I have no fear of whatever is ahead. I just know to keep going forward. I know to do what is placed in front of me, and I know to show up with certainty and put my shoulders back and just walk with a certainty that is just unbreakable. That's what it feels like. And I can put my head down at night, no matter how tough my day's been, knowing I've done the right thing. Wow. Yeah. And have you always had that certainty with God? I was really lucky to have a mum who introduced God to me from a very young age, and she prayed every single night by my bedside. Even though she was a religious woman, I never had rigidity drummed into me. It was a free-flowing, God is here for us, and no matter what, you will be taken care of. So I was lucky to have that. And so your question was, did I always have that certainty? I always had the certainty that I would always be taken care of, put it that way. Wow. It didn't mean that I felt certain in myself. Many times in my life I've felt uncertain, not made great decisions and lacked confidence. But I never forgot that God was present. I just forgot to ask. I forgot to surrender. I forgot to let go. I kept wanting to be in control myself. Does that make sense? It makes total sense. I think most of us probably do that. We forget. Forget that God's there. Yeah. Yeah. And do you have certain practices that you do to sort of engage with the presence of God? You know, are you a journaler? Is it about reading your Bible? Do you like to go and sit somewhere quiet and reflect? I used to journal a lot more than I do now. I tend not to journal much now at all. I talk to God. I wake in the night and pray. I listen a lot. There's some great YouTube channels that have got beautiful spiritual things. I go to Mass, that is very special for me. My husband and I pray together, so that's really nice. So being someone who's always been very quick to put rigid rules in with my practices in the past. If you don't do this, then you won't get that, right? Especially when it comes to this sort of thing. I've learned to let go and go, whatever you can do today is good enough. You don't have to do X, Y, Z every day in order to be close to God. And so by letting go of that, some days are more than others. Some days not as much. And I'm okay with that. So long as I don't put any rules around it, then I find that my relationship with God is more solid. And this God that you encounter, these different ways, who's always there, what is that God like? My God's got a really good sense of humour, because the way my lessons come about, sometimes you couldn't make it up, right? And I go, wow, that's a funny way to show me that lesson. A few people have mentioned the sense of humour. Yeah. Look, just a loving, forgiving, kind God that wants me to be brave, be bold, not waste my life. Because I really do believe that there's greatness in all of us. And I really do believe that He wants us all to feel our greatness, because the more we can do that, the more we can help others, the more we can be an example to others, to step out of ourselves, to step out of the self-defeating,
messages that we can create, and to go out there and be great and help mankind. Ultimately, that's what we're here to do, right? Help each other on this journey.
Tanya, thank you for joining us today on Where Do You Find God?
Thank you.
If you'd like to listen again, tune in via your favourite podcast app or listen live on Star each Wednesday morning at 10:30.